My husband lied to his entire family and told them I was mentally unstable. Then I exposed his biggest lie. We've been married for 6 years, and for the first 4, everything was perfect. Then, right around last October, things took a really weird turn. My husband, let's call him Jimmy, suddenly became absolutely obsessed with weekend solo hikes. Every Saturday morning, he'd be up by 6 a.m., packing a sleek little duffel bag and heading out the door. He said he needed the time to clear his head, to decompress from the stress of his corporate job. At first, I thought, sure, self-care is important. But then, I started noticing the details. He'd come home 8 hours later, smelling like high-end body wash and freshly brewed espresso, not exactly the scent of the great outdoors, and his hiking boots, spotless, every single time. When I asked him which trail he took, he'd give me this vague, dismissive wave and mumble something about a hidden spot upstate. I didn't want to be that wife, the paranoid one, digging through pockets and checking location histories, so I just pulled back. I stopped getting up early to make his thermos of coffee. I stopped asking how his hike was. I started making my own weekend plans, visiting my sister, going to farmers markets, just keeping busy. Honestly, we were basically living totally separate lives from Friday night to Monday morning. I thought my silence would speak for itself. I thought he'd notice the distance, and we'd finally have a real conversation about whatever it was he was actually doing, but he didn't. Instead, he found a loophole. He decided to handle the tension by telling his entire family that I was going through a severe depressive episode. I didn't find out until right before Thanksgiving. His mom called me, out of nowhere, her voice dripping with that heavy, exaggerated sympathy. She said Jimmy had confided in her about my mental health struggles and how I couldn't even find the energy to get off the couch on weekends. I was stunned. I literally had absolutely no words. I just thanked her and hung up. A few days later, his sister sent me a text. No actual message, just a link to an intensive inpatient wellness retreat in Arizona, and a little prayer hand emoji. But the final straw was at a holiday dinner. We were all sitting around his parents' dining table, and his dad raised his glass, looked right at me, and said he admired my bravery for fighting my inner demons. Jimmy was sitting right across from me, sipping his beer, looking completely unbothered. He didn't even flinch. He just watched me, waiting to see how I'd play along. After the dishes were cleared, I waited until Jimmy went to the garage to grab another drink. I followed him in, shut the heavy door behind me, and asked him, point blank, what the hell he had been telling his family. He laughed, like I was overreacting. He said he just needed an easy excuse for why I was so distant, and why we weren't doing things as a couple anymore. He said it was easier than dealing with my attitude. I looked at him, and I didn't yell. I just kept my voice perfectly level. I told him that I wasn't depressed, and I wasn't going crazy. I told him I knew his hiking boots had been perfectly clean for 6 months, and that the next time his mother called to check on my mental health, I was going to tell her exactly where he was every Saturday. He stared at me, his face going completely pale. He tried to call my bluff and told me I wouldn't dare. I just smiled and said, try me. He hasn't packed that duffel bag since.